All right, what's up, ladies and gentlemen? This is BC. I have another special interview coming at you today. This time we have Ant, who is coming in live from Southern California. Ant, what's up, man? Welcome to the show.
Thank you. I'm pleased to be here, Bryan.
Yeah, man. So let's jump right into it. Give the audience a quick introduction, and then we'll take it from there.
Sure. Yeah. Well, I grew up in this area here in Orange County, and I originally was an educator for a long time in Montessori education. I was really proud to be doing that, be a teacher and a school director. And then by chance, I happened to meet a real estate agent, put up her Christmas lights. That's kind of how I got into the business. And she really appreciated the hard work I did. It was supposed to be a 3-hour job. I ended up being there over 10 hours at her house, putting this stuff up, wondering, like, is she going to pay me for this entire time? You know, like, how's this going to go? And by the end of the night, we were putting the ornaments on the tree, having tea and cookies, meeting all the neighbors. And she said, hey, can you come back and be my assistant starting on Monday? And I said, all right, because I think it's important in life to, you know, when you meet good people, to trust them if you can and, you know, take opportunities that presented. So I got into that, being her assistant for a while, and then she encouraged me to get my license. And here I am today, 4 years after that.
Cool, man. So how was it? That's a pretty interesting story. And typically most people, I think, have an opposite story than you. They usually get into real estate either because they're chasing money or their back is against the wall and they're like, you know what, I want to do it. But with you, it was completely different. It was just kind of right place, right time kind of thing.
Well, I was sort of chasing money, you know, unfortunately, I was actually had quit my job at that time as an educator to go buy a school. And this was during COVID, when it was, because if you don't own the private school, like, you know, you can't really make enough money necessarily unless you have a spouse who makes great money, right? To have a family and all that stuff. So my back kind of was against the wall, actually. And when I saw this opportunity, I said, well, this is God-given. You know, this person's a really successful agent in the Los Angeles area. And I just said, let's do it.
Cool. With that said, right, you get licensed, and that was about 4 years ago. What was that first 3 to 6 months like first year for you? Was it smooth sailing? Was it hard? What was that like?
Originally, there was the idea that I was going to start with her company up in Los Angeles. And then I quickly realized I was not going to work out. Like, I'm not going to drive up to LA to pick up things that are printed for me or whatever, you know, like. And so then I was very fortunate to have one of my best friends. He had a good friend who's working for this company, and it happens to be a family company. And I'm super pleased that I ended up meeting with them. So after kind of the initial courtship with the LA company, I said, I don't know if this is probably not going to work out. I need to be careful about my next decision. So I interviewed at a bunch of places here locally in Orange County. And, a lot of people were like, oh, yeah, join us. This is going to be great, this and that. And I talked to the other agents, and everyone was kind of whatever. But when I interviewed at my current company, Bullock Russell Real Estate Services, I made it a point to talk to every staff member, and then also talk to a handful of agents too. I probably talked to about 12 people before I made my decision who were involved in the organization. And pretty much everyone was just like, hey, listen, like, they just were very serious. Join this company. This is a great company. You know, it wasn't all like sales, yay, this and that. It was like, you should be here. Like, we would like for you to be here, and we would like to have you as a colleague. So I could tell the tone was different. And I do think it's a really unique brokerage, and I'm super pleased to be with them. That first 3 to 6 months was definitely a struggle. I just jumped right out there and started doing what people suggested I do, which was, I wanted to do things the old school way. You know, part of the reason I was attracted to your content too is I just have always been that way. So I wanted to get into door knocking. Door knocking appealed to me. I wanted to get into like a sales loop where you're getting compounding returns, where every interaction I have with somebody, you know, maybe it's not going to lead to a sale now, but it could lead to a sale 3 years from now, 10 years from now, who knows what. So I always just wanted to get there because my ultimate goal was, to be very financially successful and to really make it in this business. I knew from the get-go that, you know, they say something like 90% of people fail out in the first couple of years. So I just wanted to put in the work kind of the old school way. And that first 3 to 6 months, though, I mean, I didn't do a single deal. I think it took me about a year to get the first deal. And that's a kind of a crazy story too. But, I just was laying the groundwork and trying to figure things out, honestly. And it was not easy to be figuring things out. Not easy at all.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think for a lot of people, there's a steep learning curve Especially, was this the first time you were involved in like a direct sales type of position, or did you have experience before getting into the business?
A little bit of experience. I mean, I did like the Cutco knife sale thing in college, but actually going into real estate has been like a total 180 for me, because when you're a teacher or the director of a school, it's a very reactive job. It's you just show up between these hours and everyone else shows up at your school with you, and you just spend time together, right? And you're just reacting to the needs of these children, and you observe, and like I was extremely passionate and always coming up with new things for them to do and this and that, but it's very like they come to you, you react, and it's all good. Whereas in this job and in sales, it's far more proactive. It's you need to be making your way every single day. You need to be challenging yourself. I mean, most people are going to fail. Like, you know, you need to be change your whole personality really. And I'm super pleased that I got into this, because it has really, you know, I've always been, I think, a confident person, but I was not used to being so aggressive, you could say, or at least just certain, there's so many things that where my whole personality has shifted and done a total 180. And I guess I would say that I still maintain my previous personality, but that I've built up this other side of the duality in all these new skills to really even myself out as a person. So I couldn't be more pleased that I ended up in this, but I feel like it was just a God-given thing that pushed me into this, and that, you know, so I need to do my best to make the most of myself and develop these new skills that I never knew I needed, but I clearly do.
Yeah, that's cool, man. And I might have some more questions about that specifically later. Can you go over the first deal that you mentioned and like kind of the craziness and everything that led up to it and what it looked like?
Yeah, they set me up with this guy to be kind of my mentor a little bit, and he was a little bit more focused on his family, if I'm being frank. But you know, and that's okay, like, because I appreciate that he's a family man and all that. But so he sent me to North Orange County. I'm in South Orange County, to an open house in Westminster that nobody wanted to do. He didn't want to do it. You know, nobody else is wanting to go there, but he said, "Can you go?" And I'm like, "Well, you got to be the hustler. You got to go and go the extra mile, right? You have to show up for people if they ask you, especially your mentors and stuff like that." So I showed up, and it was this house. It was original owner. He passed away in the house. Everything original in the house, hardwood floors, and over by the fireplace was it was all discolored in the shape of a human body, because this dude had passed away. And then it was like a month later that his neighbors were like, "What's going on?" Right. So I'm literally doing this open house, and like people are like, "Oh, what's happening over there?" And I'm like, "Well, you know, like it was an amazing thing." So then I did meet a buyer there, and this person, you know, she told me later, she said, "I knew it was your first deal from the get-go, because she just had an intuition." She's like, "I knew you weren't that experienced in this and that, but I believed in your company, and I believe in you because you're a good person." And she wanted to be friends with me and stuff. And like, we just bonded really well at this thing. So she was a great person. She was a single mom caring for her kids, and she needed to buy a house. And so we ended up getting into escrow on a probate deal. The probate deal was a total nightmare. This is my first deal. And what ended up happening was, you know, there was multiple offers. We ended up winning eventually on the multiple counter. And then we got it for a great price. In my opinion, it was fantastic timing. But then as we get through the probate process, you know, you need a court approval. And this is during the time when the rate is skyrocketing from like, you know, 2.9 or so. And eventually it jumped all the way up to 8 within about 7 months, right? So during this time, we're waiting to get court approval, and her interest rate is going up and up and up. Like, can she even afford the place? So then we have to do the rate lock, which is only going to be good for 60 days. They tell us, "Okay, great. Well, you know, we do have a court date coming up in like a month or something, so hopefully it'll all work out." And then we show up for the court date to confirm the sale, and the judge announces that the conservator has died. And so then we need to have a new court date a month from now. So then we're like, "Oh gosh, like, is my whole deal going to fall apart? Like, are we going to have to exit this? What's going to happen?" And then we get through, thankfully it all worked out, where the next person came up, the son or whatever, you know, and approved the sale. And I'm thinking, finally, I got my first deal. Everything's perfect. You know, I'm going to make some money on this. And then the escrow people call me and say, "Hey, listen, we had negotiated a $16,000 repair credit, which was exactly what my commission was, 2% on an $800,000 purchase. But they said, you know what? The paperwork for that $16,000 repair credit was not submitted to the court. And so it hasn't been confirmed. And therefore, your client is going to basically lose the 16,000. And this is when I knew, my broker is an attorney and he was guiding me the whole way. He's extremely experienced. And he said, basically what had happened was the attorney for the estate did not submit the paperwork to the court, which is a huge, and he was like, you know what, we've never seen this in all my years doing this. I've never even heard of this happening. Somebody making such a large mistake like that. And it was just a total nightmare. But by the end of it, we came to a nice conclusion. Like, he was the only person who knew what to do. Everyone was trying to shift the blame on me. Oh, it's his first deal. It should have been him putting the paperwork in, all this stuff, trying to gaslight me. And that's when I knew that I was going to be with my company forever, because I said, dude, this guy really stuck up for me. This guy pushed back, and I appreciate him so much. So total nightmare on my first deal, but ended up getting it done because nice person with the right people, and that's how it gets done. And hang in there.
Crazy, man. I could think back to my first, year or two, and I had some pretty nutty deals too, especially when courts and lawyers get involved, or probate. I've done a couple probates, and it's a nightmare sometimes, man. But it teaches you a lot. So I always tell people it's kind of good to go through some rough deals early on. That way you learn the ropes. And when you run into issues later on, you're a little bit better prepared. So in a way, it's a blessing, I think, in the long run.
My broker said, you handled that better than almost anyone would in your situation. He said, so trust me, you have a future in this business, and keep your head up like that. It's not going to be that hard every time. I said, thank you.
Yeah, 100%, man. Now, you went about it a little bit differently, because, you're doing the traditional real estate stuff like a typical realtor, but I know you're involved with like selling businesses too. Where did that come in? Was that always kind of on your radar from the beginning, or did you just randomly get invited by somebody to jump in on a deal and they showed you? Like, what did that process look like?
It was on my radar from the very beginning, because having my background as a private school director, one thought I had was maybe I should, and I was already in contact with brokers, so I was familiar that there are brokers who sell private schools, and I was trying to network with them a bit to find an opportunity for me to buy. And then I found out I don't have the money for this. And so then that's when I had to go into real estate and start to make the money to buy a school someday, maybe. So I knew it was on my radar, and I actually had an offer to work for the preeminent person in the state of California. And I decided against it because I wanted to be in Orange County, close to my family. And this person wanted me to move to Los Angeles. And I just wasn't down for that. So I started in residential, but as I gained my strength, experience, and having a good time with it, and really feeling like, okay, I have a future here. And I said, you know what, I want to move into that as well, because that really is where my competitive advantage lies, is in childcare centers, selling those. And this other person, they might retire. They're up there in age, and there's going to be perhaps a wide open market for me. So I said, it's going to be wise for me to start investing in that now. And then I said, well, I started to network with some business brokers and figured, why don't I just do all the businesses? I went to the conference late last year, and it was an amazing experience. And I said, I belong here for sure. And I've had a lot of immediate success, honestly, selling businesses. It's been great. And it really speaks to me. I'm really enjoying still doing the homes, and I put so much work and effort into building up my pipeline for the homes and my name locally and stuff. So I'm definitely known for the homes, but I really enjoy the businesses. It's such a challenge to sell the business. Living here in Orange County, it's like every house they say it sells itself. I'm not sure if that's not 100% true, but a business is the whole transaction is at least 20 times more complicated. Finding the buyer, who's going to be your buyer. I mean, I'm sitting here in an amazing townhome. This is a beautiful townhome. Anyone would want to live in this townhome, but who wants to buy a business? You got to find the right person. You need to convince them it's a good opportunity, all that kind of stuff. So that's why I got into it.
And it's interesting because you hear about it, but not that often. Is that something you'd consider like recommending to other realtors, or is it one of those things that you really got to be like on it and really be passionate about it to see success in it and kind of see that through?
I think you got to be on it. You got to be passionate, and the transaction timelines are much longer typically. It's so much more complicated, like I was saying, to find your people, to find the right buyer for it. you got to have your sales skills got to be super on point to be able to share, the information in a way that's legally sound too. The liability is so much higher in that field as well. And just each opportunity is so different, right? We could say, well, we have like a beautiful $10 million turnkey mansion with ocean view. That's great. Or you could be selling like a fixer, $700,000 condo or something around here. Those might be two different experiences. But when you're looking at businesses, there's so many different types of businesses. So you better be like really understanding about what's going on. I mean, I'm selling import distribution companies. I've sold other distribution companies. You sell schools. You sell dance studio was a recent sale that I had. You sell manufacturing companies, and you gotta have a really wide scope of knowledge to be able to have your sales skills on point with all these different owners. These owners of the businesses, some of them are quiet engineers and some of them are hard driving business people, and other people like inherited the business from their family or whatever. The stories are so wide and varied that if you do want to get into being a business broker, you better have a breadth of knowledge so you can really relate to people. But I'm not sure it's something that I would recommend to your average realtor, to be honest. I think I would stay away. I think you would get yourself into more trouble than
right.
I think you kind of got to go full bore. I think I'm one of the few people that can kind of do both a little bit, but I wouldn't recommend it to your average person.
Yeah, man, we'll see. If I get enough comments about that, maybe we can hop on another episode for, 20, 30 minutes and discuss that more in detail. Because that was always interesting about your story that really piqued my interest. I was like, man, this dude's, it seems like he's doing both pretty effectively. Do you find it difficult to kind of manage both, or have you kind of figured it out?
I think with the discipline of your program here, I think it's been okay. So, what I focus on is during the week, I prospect for residential, and during the weekend, I prospect for business bit. And then I just take the calls, I take the meetings. I'm well prepared every Sunday night. I plan out my week ahead of time. And at the end of the day, what are we doing mechanically? We're making calls, we're sending emails, we're looking over contracts. It's in that sense, it's the same thing. So it fits in nicely. Like I don't struggle to, besides the prospecting, like I said, breaking it up weekends and weekdays. Besides that, I don't struggle to mix, my day and all this stuff.
Yeah, but you mentioned a key that most people don't have. You said you're disciplined, and most agents especially have zero or little discipline at all. Have you always been disciplined, or is that something you kind of really have doubled down on recently?
Well, I've definitely always been disciplined, but that said, this program has helped me tremendously, because I think where I was everyone saw me as a hard worker, and like I'm doing this open house for a big time agent because they want me. Like all the big time agents wanted me on their team. When I started, they all said, could you be on my team? And I did go on their teams for a while. And then they all said, we know you're going to be off on your own someday, so don't worry about it, but we want you in here for a little bit at least. We want to be a part of your success, is basically what they were all telling me. And they gave me opportunities, and I really appreciate all of them. But so I've always been disciplined, and people have noticed that. But I think what is different about me being in the program versus before the program here on a Distinguished Agent is the inner game, because I think no matter how hard and how disciplined you are, there's a 90% fail rate, and that eats away at you in your mind. Every single day you wake up, and it's hard to be disciplined. Like I'm a naturally very disciplined person, but you're just not as on point as you can be when you have this voice in the back of your head that's always nagging, saying, oh, maybe it's not going to work out, or oh, this, or it's always there's something there. And when you're not thinking, when you have that in the back of your mind, it just eats away a little bit by little bit, and you're less effective than you can be. So I still showed up every day and stuff, but I wasn't necessarily with that energy, that winning mentality every single day. Sometimes you show up a little bit like, here I am knocking on doors, and I don't know how it's going to go. I don't know what's going to, so you put in the time. Like I always knew if I just stay in it, that's what all my mentors said, is they said some of my mentors, it took them 16 years to become $1 million agent, and other ones, they were, everyone says it took at least 5 years or whatever to really hit those really high income levels. And so but being in the program has been such a big deal because you get your inner game on point. That's so key. So now, and also when you start to have success, like it's very hard to be disciplined when you're grinding for a whole year, and then you get one deal and it was a struggle bus, and at the end of the day, you thought you were going to lose your whole commission and have to give it to your client. You're like, what is going on? So yeah, it's you're kind of, there's a voice in your head that says, why are you investing so much in this? Isn't there something else you should be investing in? And it's tough to get past that sometimes. But I think being in this program, and it was just perfect timing too, because I am, now that I'm 3.5 years in, really finding some good success doing this. Now everything is clicking, and now I'm like, I wake up like ready for stuff, and like I'm hanging out with people, and I'm like, listen, guys, I gotta go home because I need my sleep. Like, and they're like, why? And I'm like, because I need to wake up tomorrow and be on point and go like, hunt some buffalo. Like that's what I need to get out here. Like I need to be going hard tomorrow. This is what I enjoy doing. And I can't just show up and be tired or whatever. That's not going to work for me. I want to be 100% like just very present and give it my all every single day like this. So once you get on that, it becomes easier, I think, to maintain it. But yeah, I mean, it's just been good to be in the program because some of the practices that the program has suggested to me has really kept me focused more.
Yeah, man. And you've been participating at a high level. There's probably 10 or 15 people really in the group that are super dedicated, and you're one of them. So it's not a surprise to kind of see the leaps and bounds of improvement for you since you joined. Would have been maybe some changes in your business or personally that have really cemented for you or been like a game changer?
Yeah, if anyone was looking to get into the program, I'll share with you the things, that I started to immediately implement and in the order that it was, which was your first video, I think, is about scripts. And so scripts were so key. And I've been working the scripts, and I need to work more of the scripts of like, the more conversational stuff. But just my listing presentation script, I have it so down now. And knowing what to say really that was an epiphany for me. And I had that epiphany many times over the first 3 years of my career of, what's the difference between me being successful and not is the way I say things. And I look at people who are really successful, I say that person's communication skills are different than mine. And the way that they were talking to people is making deals happen. And that's the difference between a great agent and somebody who's just okay or whatever. I mean, I could have gotten by with my prospecting and being a nice guy and all that stuff and done pretty decently. But if I really wanted to be at the top of the game, like the other people, everyone who's at the top of the game, they have good communication skills, I think. And that's the difference between making transactions happen and having them kind of fall apart, or snaring that prospect that you really want to work with, that client, or having them go with somebody else is what you say. So that's number one thing that has changed so much since I joined the program, maybe like April or something, has been the scripts and my communication and knowing what to say. That's been number one. And then I guess number two would be the inner game stuff, which is also I'm every single day I get stronger in, which I love. But just the idea that, my affirmations, my daily affirmations have changed my whole life. And I just find myself in the situations where I might have reacted one way or had certain thoughts come up in my mind that were actually counterproductive thoughts. They just get blasted away now. And I'm like, you know what? No, this is who I am. And it's like a belief that, I've always had a growth mindset. And because I've just been honestly successful. I've done so many things in my life before this, besides being an educator and stuff. And like, I work hard. I've always gone the extra mile. Like my parents have always said, work hard, do this, help people, communities will help you back, all that stuff. So like, I've always had success, but that's kind of based more on my experience. And so then when you're getting into real estate, you don't have that experience and you're pushing. It's hard to get the experience of success. But then when you start to just tell yourself, I don't know, then it's a combination of things. But once you start to tell yourself who you are, you realize that you can change yourself without needing to, like, I don't know, like you can sculpt yourself. And that's a really powerful thing. So that's been huge for me, just the daily affirmations. I have business affirmations on one side of the page, and then I flip it over and I do my personal affirmations, which keep me on point. And yeah, that kind of leads into the third thing, which is having a vision and knowing like all that NLP stuff that we talk about, but having a goal is what keeps you focused. So, cause yeah, I could hang out even late last night, I ended up going to a nice social event, which is quasi networking, quasi super fun time. And I could have gone out and been out late and this and that, but that's not what I want. What I want, I have a very specific goal. And that goal is for me to have a great career so that I can, someday I'd like to have a family and stuff and be, the person in my family who takes care of everybody and all that kind of stuff. So keeping focused on that by these daily practices, like my morning and evening journaling in the morning, journaling in the evening, looking over my affirmations at least once in the morning, and then looking over my grand vision. And that is my affirmations, is it has the vision of how I want my life to be and what I want to see for myself in 5 years and stuff. That just saturates everything you do. And then, another huge realization, I'm just ranting right now, but another huge realization that we had like maybe 2 weeks ago was that sacrifice is necessary. I think it was sparked from one of your videos. I think it was last weekend that I was listening to it, but sacrifice is absolutely necessary if you want to accomplish things, because there's so much to do and you can't do everything, actually, is the truth. So, the idea that you gotta, and not only that sacrifice is necessary, but that you should embrace that, hey, I'm actually, you kind of in your heart have mixed feelings about turning down this fun event or this or that, whatever. But what you need to do is you need to flip it and say, hey, that's an awesome thing. I'm glad I got invited to that. Or, this person wants to spend time with me. That's great. And I should feel good about that. And I'm sorry that I can't do it with this person, but I need to feel good about the fact that I'm turning that down, because that's pushing me more in the direction that I want to go.
Right.
So not having those mixed feelings and just saying, I've sacrificed this, but sacrifice is good. Sacrifice is getting me where I want to go. So, and sacrifice is not a bad word or a dirty word. Sacrifice, it turns into a good word. Like, no, I had to sacrifice that, and it's good. I did.
Yeah. Yeah, man, because when you lock in and you're clear about that, especially like the portion that you mentioned about vision, you don't have to worry about the stuff that other people are worried about. I'm sure you're not lacking motivation or waking up upset or you're just locked in and ready to go, and you know exactly what you're going to do and exactly what time. And I always tell people those are the most magical moments, because the more you're locked in like that, the success becomes almost streamlined, and it's just going to be a natural consequence of following that protocol, right? But so many people, like you mentioned, and I love that answer because 80% of it was inner game, but getting that message to a lot of people is challenging, right? Because we default to the surface level stuff. Oh, give me a script, give me this, give me that. Yet most people either never have the realization or realize it very like long down the road that, well, you know what? I'm the obstacle. It's my own thoughts. It's my own habits. It's me getting in my own way. Did that click for you early on? Or was that something that you just kind of stumbled on? Because a lot of people, man, struggle with that. And it seems like you've really conquered that and you've understood it. And now you're getting out of your own way and you're getting to work. How was that process for you?
Yeah, I mean, I think as an educator, I'm like a really deep observer of people. And it's my belief that everyone is born with their own genius. You know, we're all born for different roles in this society. And, I joined your program because I used to play basketball. I'm a basketball referee still. I'm an athlete just like you were, so we have this, we're cut from the same cloth. And so that's what really attracted me into your system and all that. The program gave me a couple there, like I just trying to do what you're doing, honestly, Bryan. Like, I see the path that you laid forward, and yeah, I see as soon as you start to do these things, you're right. Like you lock in. And one of the main things was the journaling, like I mentioned, because that keeps you focused on your vision. But there's little things like now every evening, I got to put my clothes out for the next day.
Yep.
Well, I still have brain power and stuff. I want all my outfit ready for the next day, and then I want to write my to-do list for the next day too.
Yep.
And then I'm probably also, my schedule's, pretty already set, right? So I kind of like, okay, these hours I'm making calls, these hours I'm door knocking, whatever, and I do all that. But that's where you want to be as streamlined as possible. I don't know if that was answer your question. I think I kind of misunderstood your question a little bit, but practices like that are just key.
Because it just built upon it, right? And that's really, it wasn't like I was looking for a specific answer, but again, you're just kind of reiterating some of the things that I said. But I think the demonstration of what you're doing and how methodical you're being with it is a demonstration that you're understanding that and living it, right? Like doing those simple things. The average person would question me, wait, why would I do that? Versus you're just doing it. And I think that's the difference there. You're looking at it like, I want to replicate and do what this individual did to have the success. And you're doing it versus someone else, instead of doing it straight out because that individual, that person, whoever it is, has something that they want, they start to question it. That would be an example of what we were discussing earlier, when somebody gets in their own way without them even realizing it, right? But it's good.
Yes.
You did answer the question, man. You did. I want to pivot for a second, ask you.
Well, I know too, Bryan, I see the wisdom in all your things. So, I think when people ask questions, sometimes it's because, let's be honest, it's always because it's resistance. It's always because, they don't secretly want it in their mind or something. They don't want that. Right. They don't want the success, or they prefer the excuse, and they prefer the idea of I'm not built for this, or I can't do this, or this world is not fair. There's all those things. And so, but then there's a minority of people who ask the question just because they don't understand why it's important, and they're not sold on this is the program for me. And I do think that's interesting too, because for instance, like one of my mentors, he got it done and he would give me some advice. And I felt like, it wasn't necessarily the how I saw myself being successful. And could I have done it the way he did it? Sure. But I just felt like him and I were so different as people. Right. And that's an interesting thing about real estate for sure, is that all these different agents and brokers are getting it done in their own ways. Like some people are all about sphere of influence. Other people are all about cold calling, So he was about a certain thing. And I said, I don't think I can be successful doing what you do, was how I read into the situation. But when I look at what you're doing, Bryan, I said, I can definitely do what Bryan's doing, because like I said, I believe, that. So that said, I think your system will appeal to a lot of people. And I do think everyone would be better off to just get on board with the program,
Right. Yeah, man. And, it's interesting because even over the years, there's just always been a tremendous amount of resistance, because you brought it up earlier. You said a good word and it has like a negative association to it, like the fundamentals or the old school stuff. Right. And it's put into this category where people truly believe, I think, because of social media, that talking to people doesn't work anymore. And you have to sit behind a camera and dance on TikTok. Like you have to be all digital. Right. But they forget that at the end of the day, we're dealing with people. And we make relationships, and these sales and these transactions that we do aren't for $5. They're for people's largest assets. And in most cases, most of these people, the lion's share, are going to do this once, maybe twice in their life. So they're entrusting, Aunt, me, or whoever it is with one of the most important decisions of their life. Right. And if you think that you're not going to be an expert, not be a smooth talker, and just trip and fall your way into a lot of deals and make money, you're crazy. And I just think maybe it's because it's the younger generation, or social media has fooled them. They forget that essence of the business, and that's never going to go away. And that's really the point that I've been really pushing for the last 12, 13 years that I've been making content. But it's still only resonating with the small percentage of people. But I think that also attributes to the failure rate, one of the main things, right? But we'll see where that goes, right? I think people are seeing a shift, but we'll see, right? Time will tell. One thing I wanted to
trying to choose a
congratulate you on
realtor.
and give you your flowers. So go ahead if you want to say something.
I can't imagine trying to choose a realtor. Like, oh, I saw one short video of them on YouTube or something. Like, I don't know. Most people, I don't think that's not the way that they. I mean, yeah. I think it's useful for building your brand, and for people who already know you, they would like to see social media. They would like to see electronic versions of you or digital versions of you. But it all starts in the real world. I think this kind of stuff.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, especially that. Like, let's say somebody does see me on the camera, right, or YouTube, and then they get interested and they call me, and I'm just a disaster, and it doesn't line up with the image that they had of me because I don't have the communication skills. Well, there you go. You're done, right? You just lost it. So we're back in the same boat. You seem to have, and this is where I want to shift. You've hit a rhythm, right? You're taking listings, you're putting deals together. It seems like things are really clicking for you. First of all, I wanted to congratulate you because it's a result of your hard work. But has there been anything specific, or has it just been you being locked in, doing what you're supposed to do, and now the results are coming?
Yeah, I think it's been that scripts, the communication, and knowing what to say in those moments. And I'm at the very beginning of that journey. But even, let's say I'm 20% of the way to the 100% master. That 20% has made 80% of the difference, really. So if my skills improve just a little bit, my results have really skyrocketed because of that. Because I realized that sales is not what I thought it was, right? And like one of my affirmations is selling is not telling, it's being in control. And that's because a lot of times you need to help you basically need to help your clients understand what they want, because it's tough to know, should I buy this home? Should I not buy this home? And you can't make that decision for them, but what you can do is help them guide through these decisions. Should I offer more? Should I offer less? What should I do in all these situations? And what's interesting is it's even helped me in my personal life. Like, I had a friend call me the other day who's going through like a really big time decision. Should this person move and take a new job and this? And I didn't want to give my opinion. I didn't want to just say, well, this and that. I actually was like, let me ask you some questions to give you more clarity. And I started asking her questions, and then she's answering them. And by the end of it, it was kind of like my whole opinion, I actually 180'd on what I thought she should do based on her answers. And and I think it offered her a lot of clarity. And so that communication stuff is what has made the difference more than anything. And then beyond that, the second thing would be getting into that like warrior mindset of like, I'm showing up to go to battle every day. Like, here we go. We need to get everything done that we need to get done every single day. So that, absolutely no excuses attitude. Like, these are the calls I'm making, and I am making these calls. Being a little bit more, being more on point with the communication allows you to go faster too and hit the points without, like, when I first started for years, I'm sure, I'd be at the door. People want to talk to me. People would talk to me for 2 hours at the door sometimes, bring me inside, this and that. And in all honesty, I think it's not necessarily a bad thing. I mean, if that person sells their house to me down the road, it was time well spent, right? But also, and so you're building a relationship, and especially for me, I'm all about farming. I'm all about relationships, community, being well known, and like Mr. Hyper local in one area. So I think there's some value to that, but also what I didn't realize is that people don't necessarily need you to be so friendly all the time. You can also get to the point about things. People understand that you're in business and that you need to do what's best for you too, which is not necessarily to spend a lot of time talking to this person who's not going to do business. But, so having the communication skills to find out where this conversation is leading, and then to leave them with, the understanding that I'm here for the community and I'm here for you, and you always can come back to me anytime. And, to more quickly build that relationship and give that feeling, it's like you're just being more efficient with your communication and all that. And that is allowed me to just do much better.
Yeah, I love that. If you're comfortable sharing with the audience, what's been your biggest commission check, roughly? Do you remember?
Probably, I've had a handful in the 40s, but I'm looking at one that's going to be over 100, and that's going to change my life. So that's what I'm working out. That's what I'm working towards right now. I got an offer out right now, and it's a sale buy. You sell one, buy the next, and that in total is going to be over 100. So that's going to be a big deal for me. And yeah, I'm really looking forward to that. And then
I love it.
in the pipeline, I mean, I got probably even bigger checks, double, maybe even triple that coming down the line. I can see it. So
I love that, bro. So what are the goals through, the rest of the year and next year? You got some big lofty goals. You're looking to hit, 500K, $1 million. You want to sell X amount of units. Kind of let the audience know where you're at with that.
I try and just focus on the process a little bit. So my goals are to hit my calls in my CRM every single day without fail. And my goals are to continue to journal and, do that every single morning and evening, hit my affirmations every single day. My biggest goal that, I feel the resistance in is to really dial down on those objection scripts, all the things that you share with me. I've been migrating all the big script book that you gave me and migrating it into like my own master copy. And I've been doing that over the last 3-4 days. And that's a big goal of mine. So my main goal is to focus on my communication, and just continue to do all the practices that I'm doing to see myself more and more as a really, really successful person. That inner game, by the end of this year, I want to feel like, I am the man. Like I'm not getting there. I'm there already. So that's the goal for me. And I'm sure if I do that, my results and stuff will come, but it would be amazing if I hit 500. I think I need to get a little lucky, but I think I could hit 500. Actually, I think it's with what we're doing, Bryan, and the whole group, with everybody there, the momentum we're all building and stuff. If I just get a couple lucky breaks, I'll hit 500.
I love it, man. That's awesome. But see, I also love the simplicity because it reminds me of me a lot, where it's like, yeah, the numbers and all that's cool, but you're just focused on those daily disciplines and things that you're supposed to do, which will naturally lead you there. And I always, in my mind, felt more honor and dedication to that. And I fell in love, in quotes, with the process like you're describing versus just being pulled, right, or attracted to that end goal of making 500K or $1 million. It was more about the warrior and person that I was becoming in that process, forged in the fire, however you want to describe it. I relished in that more and enjoyed that more versus just, I'm hit my, $500,000 goal of GCI and I got a trophy, so I'm sure you can relate to that.
Absolutely. Because the money is sitting in your bank account, like great, but you have to live with yourself every single day. And I want to wake up in the morning and I don't want to be like, oh no, it's too early. I want to go back to bed. I want to be like, no, like here we go. Like here's another awesome day. Can't wait. Let's go. So that's what's important.
I love it, man. So if somebody wants to reach out to you, social media, how do you want them to, because I'm sure people are going to, I want to talk to Ann. I want to message him. How do you want them to message you?
Yeah, it's all about spreading the love and sharing, and building relationships. So I'm happy to talk with anybody. But, my name is Anthony, but I go by Antho often, or Ant in our group. And last name is Zueck, Zueck. So if you just search for me on Instagram, I have some good YouTube stuff up I'm pretty proud of. And I'm also on Facebook and all that good stuff too. But yeah, just hit me up. I'm happy to chat.
Cool. I'll put your info in the description and the pinned comment for people. Any final words in closing before we end?
I just want to say thanks, Bryan. Like it has been a really good decision to do this, and I give you a lot of credit for because I've watched a lot of your videos from the first year I started, first month probably I saw one of your videos because I was desperate for guidance, and I watched videos from all these different people who are good real estate coaches in their own rights. And if I had joined this years ago, I'd be a lot better off, but at the end of the day, the timing's divine. So give you a huge amount of credit for the good work you're doing. It's changing my life for sure. And if anyone, feels like a connection to the things that we talked about in this interview or in your videos about just working hard, doing things the right way, if that fits your personality, this will be the best investment you make for sure. I knew from the moment I watched that first video, I literally was telling everyone who asked, how's it going with that new coach? I said, I watched one video and it's worth the whole thing. This first video was worth it all. And now I get to continue to be part of this program, indefinitely here. So with all the other value add you've been given, dude, anyone just hop in and because the value is there. Yeah.
Appreciate you, man. And by the way, for everybody watching, I didn't pay him to say that because I know I'll get accusations of that.
No, but Bryan, you answered the phone. Like you actually were the one who called me when I was interested, and that makes a big difference. So
yeah, hell yeah. All right, man. I know you got an open house to go to. Appreciate you coming on. 45 minutes. If you guys want to reach out to Ant, I'll have all his info in the description. Anything else you need, let me know. Remember, in the description, you have a lot of the free resources I've been giving you guys. It'll get you on the email list, and it'll give you some introductory stuff. All right, Ant, thanks for coming on. YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, world. We'll see you. Peace.
Yeah.